He is Rizish.
It's not Easter Sunday yet, Dave. Chill.
Excuse me.
I,
Easter is Passover. We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, most times we go deep.
You should do that again with more excitement.
We are Squawking Dead, a podcast pulverizing programs beyond the Walking Dead universe. Sometimes we give you news, sometimes we make you laugh, most times we go deep. I'm your host, David Cameo, and I'm joined by...
Me, CosmoMom09.
Lazy Gardener.
And Bridget. You can find me at youtube.com/@punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
Bridget, I can tell in your face that you have lost some weight, man. Your face is looking super slim.
I lost 50 pounds.
Yeah, you go,
Damn,
girl.
girl.
I think you gave it all to me.
We're here to talk about the 7th episode of Dark Wind's 3rd season, titled Álts'iisigo.
Close enough.
Where did Bridget go?
She's embarrassed.
Which means just a small piece. It's been a while since we recorded.
It has been.
It's been not a month, but quite a few weeks.
What even episode has actually aired recently?
So the 3rd episode
3.
aired on Sunday. Today is March 29th, Saturday.
So tomorrow another one will air. Episode 4.
That's episode 4. That's Chahal Heel.
Okay.
Which gives you a sense of when we're recording and what moment in time we're in.
It's just like thrown off by all this.
Since that time, we haven't recorded in a few weeks. And in that time, I actually ended up watching a couple of things, both of which contained casts from Dark Winds.
Oh.
One was American Primeval, which was something that was recommended to me a long time ago by our friend Diana from Screens in Focus, and has Shorty Bowlegs playing Red Feather, and he's quite commanding on that show, actually. However, I would recommend it to our audience because it's kind of a tragedy porn and is filled with gory violence. Basically, Sharon, probably don't watch it.
You piqued Rachel's interest.
I know. But it is tragedy porn and sad, so I don't know if it'll even pique you.
That's the part I don't want. Yeah, that's the part I don't want. The rest of it is fine.
I like the gore.
It is a very compelling narrative about the conflict between the Mormons in Utah and the U.S. government and all the peoples that are trying to navigate that area in between.
No, thank you.
I don't know. Maybe there's a space in which, for folks who can't handle the violence and the tragedy and the sadness and the weirdness, well, maybe read an article about it and going through it, because it is a very interesting topic.
I'll just read some history. That's cool.
No. Okay, fine. Second thing I watch is on the opposite end of the spectrum, and that is Marvel's Echo from Marvel Spotlight. And that was directed by Sidney Friedland, who's directed a ton of things in the realm of Native American this and that, because obviously Marvel is a completely different universe, because she had directed things that we had mentioned in our season 2 recap, one of which is Resball, which you mentioned, Bridget, over and over again. Tons of the cast have come from there, including Jessica Matten and Kiowa Gordon. We had pronounced his name wrong initially.
I know, I saw your message about it, and I was like, oh, yikes.
You gotta get it right, folks. Gotta get it right. Just like the titles I always get right?
Yes.
Always. Let me just list off a couple more things before I go back to Echo. Star Trek Strange New Worlds as well. Reservation Dogs, Rutherford Falls, like you mentioned. The Wilds, actually, too, which I liked The Wilds, even as a 40-plus-year-old man, watching a bunch of kids being stranded on an island. The Walking Dead World Beyond, Connective Tissue.
Interesting.
Yeah. P-Valley, Nancy Drew, Emergence, Impulse, Fear the Walking Dead.
Nice.
Nobody's impressed. Tales of the City, not Tales of the Walking Dead.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Tales of the Walking Dead. I'm like, that's just weird.
Grey's Anatomy, Station 19, Heathers, the new one, obviously. Drunktown's Finest, Hoverboard the Migration. That goes all the way back to 2008. Marvel's Echo was a 6-episode limited series and was actually quite interesting. It focuses on Tamaha, Oklahoma, the Choctaw people. The main character is from the Choctaw Nation. It was kind of interesting to see the weaving of ancient mythology with this character and how it plays out, and actually the greater ramifications for the universe, because as many of you
When you're
may
saying
know,
Marvel, you mean like superheroes, right?
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
I wasn't sure if you were saying that was the name, Marvel's Echo, or if it
like
was
Ms. Marvel or Captain.
Well, I don't know,
no.
dude. No, just like a name. Like
So the series is called.
The word Marvel exists outside of
No,
outside
it
of
doesn't.
comic
Actually,
books.
it doesn't. It's been trademarked, so it can't be used anywhere else now. Sorry, Bridget. You lose.
Is that why Modern Marvels went off the air?
Yes, that's why.
Stanley personally took it down, actually. He donned his costume.
I'm watching the new Daredevil. That's the only Marvel thing I'm watching right now.
So that's what I was getting to. If you're watching the new season of Daredevil, Echo is a great prelude to that season, considering that Kingpin is back.
Mhm.
And at the time, we didn't know that when Echo came out. And now that enough
It's
time has
Daredevil
passed.
Born Again.
Okay, Daredevil Born Again. I'm curious to see what Wilson Fisk looks like after Echo.
Oh, you haven't watched Born Again yet?
And I'm glad I didn't, because Echo kind of is a good prelude to that, to give you
I'll have
more
to go
context.
back and watch it.
Yeah.
Honestly, this vein of Marvel is the only Marvel property that I'm like still willing to watch. I'm kind of like done. There's been so many years of just like constantly pumping out superhero movies. At first, it was really cool because, superhero movies weren't that popular. And so it was like rare when we got them, and even more rare if they were good. It was exciting, but now I'm just burnt out on it.
That's what I was going to get to as well. I was just like, okay, should I watch it? Should I not watch it? I was like, am I just doing it to pass the time? But I watched it, and it's unlike anything Marvel that I've ever seen. There's obviously the required components for a Marvel thing, but outside of that, Sidney Freeland is an amazing director. The visuals are incredible. It plays unlike anything Marvel, really. There's some elements and formulas that do have to factor in because of the greater lore, but other than that, it's a really good human drama, kind of like a hero's journey. And it starts off with the conflict. I urge you, if you are loving Dark Winds, to watch Echo on Disney Plus. It's, I think, the only place you can really get it now.
I'll check it out, actually.
And there's so much money thrown at it too, which is what makes it great.
I'm going to say this is not a spoiler, I promise, because it's just like a matter of fact, and it was in the promos for Daredevil, but John Bernthal is in it
As the Punisher.
We're getting
right.
Frank Castle back, which
Nice.
that version of the Punisher is the best Punisher, I think.
Agreed.
I love John Bernthal. He can't miss, but he's really great as Frank Castle.
Yeah.
You didn't like Dolph Lundgren as I actually like what's his name? Thomas Jane?
No,
Was it Thomas
yeah,
Jane?
no, Thomas Jane's was pretty good too. I do like some of the older Punisher movies. They're like pretty good, but I would say John Bernthal's the best one that we've had.
It's peak. 100%.
That's just my opinion.
Every
I'm
iteration
there's
keeps
gonna be
getting
people-
better.
I'm sure people are going to be like, actually.
Timothy Chalamet as the next Punisher. Can you?
Because he's just everything now.
Is it wrong for me to say I would watch it anyway just to see Timothy
Just to
Chalamet
see.
get beat up?
I will say this. He was great. He was great in Dune.
I'm not
He was super good
That's
in Dune.
why he's so great. Is there's an actor element to it, but it's an image thing as
I
well.
also refuse to watch him in this like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory or
Yeah, I won't
Willy
watch it
Wonka
either.
or whatever.
Wonka.
It
I'm
was
sorry.
great.
Can we just pick like one name?
No, it was
Because it's like
great.
every single movie that's come out that's been based on that book has come out with a different variation of the name. It was like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Wonka. It's like, can you just pick one? I can't keep track.
20 minutes later.
Speaking of your weight. This is a real segue. I did want to mention the last bit of housekeeping, which was I am resurrecting the blog one season at a time. So each blog release is going to be a season of coverage that we've slacked off on. And the first one is House of the Dragon. And I got to tell you, first of all, Bridget, you're turning into a ghost. You're disappearing before my very eyes, because when you go through all of that, it's like, first of all, I was already saying it back then, if you remember. Going from that till now, it's like, it's
I
crazy.
see like clips and videos, online of me, and I'm like, huh. Like, because, when you're losing weight, you're like, I'm not really.
Yeah, I'm telling you, you gave it all to me. Look at this. Look at this. Look at
What? It's like, Look at this.
To be fair, I didn't lose anything from here. These
Good.
are still huge.
Good. We love it. We love it.
Cherubic.
They'd be like, who are you? She pops on the next episode. If she loses those cheeks, I'll be like, excuse me, you
I'm gonna
were
go
not
get
invited.
my buckle fat removed, and I just like show up, and I'm like,
Oh my god.
Good thing you can't do it because it's impossible
I'm poor. I'm poor.
Excuse me, sirs. Can you do a charity drive for me?
I'd like my
You'd like-
buckle fat. That's not the fat I'd be targeting. If we're paying for some form of fat removal, it would be from a different
Just
area.
Move it up here, actually, Bridget. You'd look amazing.
Maybe that would
Anyway.
make me look younger. Like if it was
Right,
like,
just stretch out the.
yeah.
I agree. Anyway, so yes, the blog will be released one season at a time. It's going to include all the clips you know and love and images that we put throughout each episode, the embedded players, both YouTube and Spotify. It will be marginally pared down from all the words and stuff. Whatever words are mentioned will be in regards to referencing reference links and links of note, honorable mentions and stuff like that. But that's basically it. So I have the clips laid out for throwing them up on YouTube. I can't wait to share that with you guys. And you'll see some clips coming out real soon if you haven't already, because this episode won't be out till the 20th of April, if I'm not mistaken. That being said, I'm not going to say the title again, but it does mean just a small piece. And in relation to the title, what does that mean in terms of this episode?
I got the most obvious one.
Right.
That's
the
not
little
your job.
chip.
That's
Just
Rachel's
a tiny
job.
piece of era. Come on, man. It's hard to come up with these sometimes.
I undercut her twice.
Well,
I don't
I
like it.
think that Joe has a little piece of BJ Vine still with him. One of the things I noticed was when we see Emma in her house, she's putting one piece of pottery in place while the rest of her house is still in shambles. Another meaning, just a little piece, as in Peace. That's what everybody in the show is looking for.
Ivan is just a side piece. Bridget, with her mic muted, denied me her delicious laughter.
Sylvia just needs one little piece of information to solidify her claim against Joe, which she did not get from Emma this episode.
I think we're only seeing one little piece of a larger puzzle. Well, maybe several puzzles in this episode.
Sharondy took all of the answers, so
You missed the obvious one. Bridget, I know what you're
the
going to say.
arrowhead.
Thank you.
She said that.
She said it
did.
already.
I
You were
did.
about
the first
to.
thing said.
No, I said it at the beginning.
That was the first thing she said.
I didn't hear the actual
yeah,
her
because you
saying
cut
it.
me off.
You
Because
know
you
what?
said, no, leave that for Rachel. You
Yeah.
doubted her. How
First of
dare
all,
you?
How dare you talk over me? You didn't raise your hand. Do you know this is the 1970s? You don't talk back to your man, to the man of the show?
What?
I don't know.
Just no.
Rachel,
No.
just so you know, this is a bit.
It is.
It's a little too
It's
obvious.
dumb.
It's very.
so dumb.
When have I not
I'm
been
sorry.
dumb?
Are you having to explain things to the dummy? You can shut your face.
Yeah,
Shut
she
your
got
face.
the irony. She got the irony. So it was also mansplaining, just so you know.
Yeah.
That's another
Just
thing
so
that we
you
love
know,
to do.
I'm mansplaining my mansplanation.
Actually, I agree.
He's already typing comments into this video. Actually.
You can just tag all of you. My explanation
Actually.
of your explanation. I do have a curveball because I have been thinking about the theme of this episode as well, which was stealing and not giving back. And one of those things is the archaeologists and stealing money from the grants and all that stuff, but also resources from probably various native tribes of the US, seeding the archaeology sites to keep the money coming in. There's also a good mirror for what Emma says about BJ Vines and how he was taking and taking and taking, or people like him taking and taking, and it leaves a hole in your spirit, which leaves you with no other resort but to really do the thing that you wouldn't normally do. Joe effectively murdering BJ Vines and Emma eventually lying. And it's not as though, I know what you're going to say. I know what anybody would say when it comes to Emma, because I listened to it recently when we were talking about Chahal Heel, which is Darkness Falls, the 4th episode. And that was, Emma doesn't lie, but she lies all the time. If you paid attention, Sylvia, to the things that Emma did for the community, based on the Mary Landon article from the second season, an unspoken tie-in to this season, then you would know that she lies to the white doctors all the time when it comes to scurrying people off the hospital so that they don't get sterilized.
She doesn't lie to the doctor. She tells the truth to the ladies that are there. She doesn't tell the doctor anything. She tells the ladies,
Well,
if you come here to have your baby, you're going to be sterilized.
she does, but if we're operating under the assumption that an omission is considered a lie, then technically there is deceit at play. The women sometimes do speak English, but she's intentionally only speaking to them in Danae, and I believe has told them, don't speak in English right now, because I'm trying to warn you of something. It's for the greater good, but it is there. It's different than being put in a position where you're forced to lie or asked to lie by your spouse.
If she is confronted by one of those doctors, I think she would be put into a position where she'd be forced to say something that wasn't quite the truth.
Yeah, but white doctors are too dumb to question her. I'm saying that just to be glib and facetious.
I know, but I was going to say not anymore, because this is the question I have to ask, actually. I have not seen her in a nurse's uniform in quite a while. And I'm wondering, actually, based on this, whether she actually is employed at the hospital anymore. This is something I was thinking about throughout this episode.
This season is taking place over just a couple of days. Just because you haven't seen her in uniform doesn't mean she's not working.
It's an interesting idea, though, that the article came out and she would have lost her job as a result.
I really thought they were going to kind of keep that ball rolling. But
Yeah,
really,
I'm surprised
they
there hasn't
haven't
even
at
been a
all.
mention.
You
Right.
did say that in the lead up to the third season, not quite the first episode.
And
But
then,
it has been 6 months, so
and now she's leaving to go live with her sister.
in Fillmore.
I would assume that's far enough away that you're no longer going to be working then at the hospital.
Right. One thought led to the other. Was
Right.
first the lying part, and then her going to her sisters in Fillmore. And I was thinking, okay, well, if you had a job, you don't anymore. And at worst, she hasn't had a job in the 6 months between season 2 and season 3. It was a good thought experiment, because they're not going to be able to get to everything on the show, too. Like many of my cockamamie theories, by the way, throughout the season, about Suzanne being the cult leader, we got no traction on that, and I can see why. This is a good segue to the reason why I brought up the theme of taking and not giving back. It's because I actually thought of, well, what is the dark wind or dark winds? If not that, maybe, because the overall theme of the series might be related to the taking and not giving back. Then there's the physical imagery of winds blowing when things are trying to be revealed or dark things are about to be revealed.
In the very first episode, the first time we see Joe, I mentioned this before, he is making a person rebury artifacts that they had stolen.
Kind of like revealing the murderer in the first scene. Isn't that what the series is about?
I think the overarching theme of the series is white men take everything. And this is them trying to get some agency back. Because they say it, BJ Vines takes and takes and takes and takes. The archaeologist takes and takes and takes and takes. The white doctors come and they take your ability to have children. That's probably the theme of the entire series.
The rotten melons. The wombs that
The
were
rotten
taken.
fruit.
I just wanted to touch on that as we're in the penultimate episode of the season and I'm hearing dark winds right now. It was really scary. Just kind of like a thought experiment. What is it? Because you had wondered in our lead up and also I think the first episode of this season coverage, Bridget, that why the dark wind or why dark winds? And I thought I would try to answer that for you based on the words that were said in this episode at Tell, Don't Show.
Oh, yeah. Like, why was that the book that was picked, like, for the main title?
And why the slight change to
Yeah,
that
because it's
title.
not The Dark Wind, it's Dark Winds. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't gotten much further in my listening to the stories because some days, you know, you just need to play the Distillers really loud and scream the whole way home. But, I'm almost done with The Blasting Way, the first book. I found out some details about, and we talked a little bit about this, like when she is introduced. And in the first book, Lee Porn's actually quite young. Not only were they written from the 1970s to now, it's shortened up a little bit, but it's occurring over a great period of time as well. I love that you kept it in your head. Thank you. I love that. That's great.
Well, first of all, does my explanation somewhat make sense?
A little, but maybe it might be one of those things that we do. The writers and the people involved in the show hear our podcast and they're like, oh,
Great thought.
not the intention, but cool that you got there. Like,
Dark winds, white people.
like when we did the whole bird thing with like the 8th season of Fear the Walking Dead, and they're like, okay, it wasn't
Michael Satrazemis calling us out.
Wasn't
We'll get Sydney Freeland on here and we'll be like, here's a clip of all the crazy things we said. What do you think about that? I wish I thought of that.
I love that. It's sometimes I think it's just happy coincidences that it works out that way.
You know what I really think? I think that got in your head. And so now when we say something that feels on the money, you're like, but then Michael Satrazemis said that we're full of feathers and
full of it.
We're full of birds. I think we should have fun.
No.
Let's have fun. Conspiracy theories are fun, Bridget. Don't listen.
Yeah, obviously, Dave is like my favorite thing.
Science and facts.
Like, one time I tell you that I listen to the science. One time.
Because I want you to have fun, Bridget.
Let me give a little bit of context to this. Dave sent me a video the other day. One, it was talking about that the CIA hired a psychic medium who supposedly found the Ark of the Covenant, which is, I just can't quite wrap my head around that one. But
I saw
good
that
work,
today.
CIA, I guess? That's wild.
I'm sorry, Indiana Jones already found it. It's in the U.S. archives.
He did.
Are they saying that the psychic found it in that big, huge warehouse?
Yes, I believe.
It was in Giza.
The scanning that was done of the pyramids, and there's like these underground poles that they have.
No, I can't. No, nope.
How do you think I feel?
Oh, no. Wait, is she invested in this? Or is she mad about it?
She's mad about it.
Okay. For a second, I thought you were like, I'm not talking about this with you. I fully believe it, and I'm not discussing this.
I can't.
I was like, no. I had no idea.
It is so terrifying that I don't.
Oh, it's the other way.
Oh.
Someone brought it up at work and I walked right out of my office and I'm like, you have this conversation. I'm not part of it. I can't hear any of this. It is terrifying. I'm going to have nightmares.
Oh.
No.
The science is bad. That is basically.
It's 100% bad.
The science is like, well, I think that I see it, so it's there. It's like,
oh my gosh.
No.
I'm getting a feeling.
I mean, that's how most science starts out though, right? Like that's how science starts.
I was
There's
bit by a radioactive spider.
That's not right.
And
though.
when danger comes, I react to it. The end of the story is Bridget responds to me immediately saying, that's not real, by the way, just so you know.
He's like, enjoy these conspiracy theories. And I was like, oh, I've already seen those. And I don't agree.
Yeah. No, the images that people are conjuring up is, what? I can't.
What? No. This is literally the one thing that you're always like, hell yeah, brother. This is great.
Well, first of all, I said, please don't hate me. Here's a video on this thing, by the way. So I knew that there would be maybe a negative reaction to me thinking of her as the conspiracy. So I was self-aware of that moment.
No, you can keep thinking that. I love conspiracy theories. That one's dumb.
Let me read word for word what she said to me, because I'm going to say this. I hadn't heard about the Ark stuff, but I did about the pyramids, and the data was so sus. And I said, it's always pretty sus until it isn't, Bridget. Elbow. And she laughed emoji like 6 hours later.
I was like, I can't
like
be
a pity
bothered.
laugh.
I can't be bothered with this.
It's only a simulation anyway. So moving on.
Oh, God.
Sure. There was one little thing that really, 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 really bothered me. And it's going to sound really stupid. When Ivan goes in to talk to Anthony Michael Hall.
Ed Henry, not Ed Hardy.
You're not drinking her Kool-Aid, are you? That was not a phrase until the late 70s. Because Jim
Kool-Aid.
Jones drinking the Kool-Aid, and that was in 1978. So this is a total anachronism.
It wasn't Kool-Aid.
It really bugged me because this is like 7 years ahead of Jim Jones.
My favorite part about this is Bridget and Rachel going, it's Flavor Aid. It's Flavor Aid. Flavor Aid. It's not what people said at the time.
Flavor Aid wasn't a phrase either.
It's not. No, I didn't even notice that. Sharony, that's a really good catch.
Can I also say something I didn't like about this episode? And it didn't bother me too much because Senna kind of cleans it up a bit. But in the beginning, when Leaphorn is at his hospital bed, we have the image of him bleeding out at Coal Mine Canyon. We'll call back to episode title. You see him unwrap the thing that Leaphorn did, and the blood is oozing out, right? Rachel, you like that? The oozing out of the coal in his jeans, okay? And then she applies the belt pressure. Okay, you get all that. Then you get to the hospital, and he just gets up later in the day.
Yeah,
that bothered me a little bit.
Is it later in the day?
But he's walking with a limp.
Frame?
I think it's later in the day.
Maybe I missed where they confirmed the sequence of events. I didn't get the impression it was later in the
I felt
day.
like a little bit of time had passed, like a day or two. I mean, I get what you're saying. He would be in worse shape than just getting up and having a little limp.
That's all I mean.
He would be so weak from blood loss, he wouldn't have been able to get up and walk around.
I felt like there had been some passage of time. Not a lot, like a couple days. I don't know why. It just felt that way. Maybe my brain just filled in the blanks.
The human body's pretty resilient too. If he had gotten to the hospital, they patched him up, he was bandaged, he's no longer bleeding out, your body will replenish the blood loss within like 24 to 48 hours.
Well, especially if you have IV liquids and stuff like that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But I felt like he would be walking a bit more strained than
for
he
sure.
is.
Breathing
But
heavily.
TV magic.
And you know what? Some people are just tougher than others. We can't speak to his personal pain threshold. I have an example. So there's a resident. He is 96 years old, fell and broke a hip, and 2 days later was up and walking around.
That's part technology, though.
No, he does not have artificial parts.
He's just a badass.
So you found
Yeah,
a Viltrumite,
exactly.
basically, right?
No,
Is
he
that-
A
is-
Viltrumite.
Well, it just speaks to
invincible
like
reference for you
true,
folks.
He's a Viltrumite for sure.
just speaks
Does
to
he
real
have a
life
thick
human
mustache?
resilience. No, he
Oh. Well,
Those are hard to maintain.
there goes that theory, Dave.
They don't all have
I
mustaches.
know. I'm kidding, Dave. I'm kidding.
God.
On this train of thought, I just want to point out how in shape these actors are. Because as Kiowa Gordon was running up and down the ravines and the arroyos and stuff, kind of like with The Walking Dead, where they have to run constantly, like you've got to be in some serious good shape to be out here working in the heat, because you know it's got to be hot out there.
Regardless of the passage of time, it didn't bother me that much. I did want to mention on the side. I just felt like, okay, that's fine. I get it. But I get his motivation. I know why he'd want to. He says it to Gordo Senna after Gordo Senna says, you got some stones. Very impressive. You didn't get shot, but you were like one of the first people. I forget what he says.
Well, this finally settles it. You win. You couldn't even get shot at with something normal, could you? Had to get hit with a damn ketamine dart. Son of a bitch shot you with horse tranquilizer, Joe. Look at that. Jesus. Guess he didn't know what kind of thoroughbred he was trying to put down.
His resolve is all based around the idea of moving forward and making it right while moving forward. So I can see why he would want to get out of that bed and do his job. But the two times in this episode where you hear flies buzzing, and maybe I can gauge from what you think about this. One is when she is doing the belt pressure thing to stem the bleed on Lee Porn's leg.
Stay with me, all right? Yeah. Hold still.
That's the one fly sound you hear in the beginning of the episode. The next one is at the end of the episode when Bernadette is looking through the garage and finds the locked door in the back. She hears the buzzing sound and it leads her to the door with the fly trap, by the way, this ribbon fly trap that comes from the ceiling next to it, which I thought was a nice thing that you don't get to see very often except in New York City bodegas.
Oh, they're for sure up in my house, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well, in case you were
We've
wondering,
got a
but yeah.
couple.
We've been talking about ants and pests and all that stuff.
I'm almost wondering if it's an indicator of someone being on to something.
Or danger.
Haunches up kind of feeling is what I'm wondering, because we hear it at the beginning of the season. And originally we assumed it was a reference to Sylvia, that she was a pest, that she was going to be bothersome. And maybe that was naive of us because she's not bothersome. It's beyond that. She is really a problem for Lee Porn. She is looking for the evidence to tie him to this. She thinks that he killed BJ Vance. She's right. He did.
More to the point, it's the absence of proof,
Yeah.
which
Well, sure.
is she says it and it kind of nails down some of the things that we've come around on.
And maybe it does have to do with that because Bernadette's there and then suddenly no one is there that they expect to catch, which is weird.
Obviously, they got tipped off.
Clearly by what's her face.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew she was going to turn on her too, but I still had
she was
hope.
bad.
Yep.
I knew from the beginning I didn't trust her.
When they showed up, they're doing this scene with the with the spinning camera, you know? Thanks, Joss Whedon. Bernadette and whatever her face is, I don't care what her name is because I don't like her. Show her
Belinda?
roommate. they show up and there's that panning camera. It's like the spin. It's like the spin camera. That's why I said thanks, Joss Whedon, because it's a Buffy thing, 100%.
Oh, the Charlie's Angel scene that I called
He
it.
loved to do that. So yeah, exactly. They're like shoulder to
I see what you're
shoulder. They're
saying.
like, they have their guns out. It's weird, but it's cool.
It's very 70s.
It is very 70s. If you did that in person, I'd be standing off to the side going, what are you doing? Because it's like, what are you doing in that moment? Because no one's rotating around you in real life. So you're literally just standing there going
In
like
a
this
wide
back
open
and forth with your head.
space, too.
It's so funny. I know there's nothing to look at.
It only looks weird because the camera's spinning around them, but in real life, they'd be standing still, assessing everything, and they stand back to back so that both of them can see the entire space. It does make logical sense.
It just looks weird.
It just looks weird because the camera's panning around them.
Rachel, kudos.
I attribute that to Bad Boys.
Nice. 100%.
Nice.
Hipster Whedon is Bad Boys,
Hipster
Bad Boys.
which was hipster Charlie's Angels, right? Is that how that goes? Oh, maybe.
It's kind of Charlie's Angels. Charlie's Angels
little.
didn't pan. They just stood
It's
there.
the poses, though. That's
It's the
what I was
pose.
referring to.
It was like a little over the top.
Where is the wah wah guitar? Waka waka waka. You know? Whatever.
So Ed Hardy is Charlie.
Oh god.
Wait, yes.
What?
I don't know who's Ed Henry in this scenario.
What?
Okay.
Bernadette
Hardy.
is Charlie.
I liked it because it gave you this false hope that maybe Linda really was on board. For a second, maybe they are going to take them down. Maybe this is going to work out. And then as soon as she says, I'm going to call for backup, I was like, no.
Nah,
No,
she's not.
No, she's not. She's going to get somebody. She ain't calling for backup.
You know what it was? I'm going to be really honest with you because from the beginning I said, Alinda, she's the one.
Well,
Right.
yeah, we all suspected her.
All the
Yeah.
things you were saying in the 4th episode, which I only just edited so it was fresh in my mind, is that you were like, oh, she's just like her. So of course she's going to trust her. I'm like, oh, God, no. But then I put my mind in your head because of the 70s and whatever. You never know. To your point, I did feel a little bit like, okay, maybe there's something there. Maybe they'll find. And then when they found the drugs, I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Because from the beginning, I was like, Alinda's completely sus. It's always the person you least suspect.
I feel like Bridget trusted her because she's like, this is another woman doing the same job I am. She knows the struggles.
You mean Bernadette? Because you definitely said my name.
Oh shit, I'm sorry, Bridget.
I was like, what?
Yeah, Bernadette. Sorry.
She was just imagining you in the jumpsuit.
I don't look that good. You guys have lost a little weight, not enough to look that good in a jumpsuit.
Disagree.
Dave, if you saw another short guy, you'd be like, hey, another short guy. I could trust
Nah,
him.
I know not to trust him. You have to understand something. They're tricky, those little ones.
Our humanity makes us seek out others like ourselves, and that's who we automatically trust.
Well, that's what I was trying to sneak in Chahal, because what you were saying is basically the impulse to tribe up and to not be cast from that tribe is there. Even though evolutionarily, slowly, there are those who are emerging who go against the tribe as maybe a mutation of that evolutionary directive to be a part of a tribe. There are some people who go counter tribe, or what the tribe typically would be.
I feel like she trusted her a little bit more after she realized Ivan had messed with her photographs. So now
Or
she's
found the rubber band in the last episode.
So the more reasons she has to distrust Ivan, the more she feels she can or should trust the female friend. What's her
Garza
name?
or
Linda?
Linda Garza. I completely agree with what you're saying, though, because that is a good cover. Because, okay, one could easily see this and go, what are you, dumb? No, this is a perfectly natural response to deciding to trust Ivan, having that trust be shaky at the very least. If not, and they just saw somebody get killed. And if he's involved in that, well, then to her point about seeing a dead body and be like, maybe I should take a step back. She decided to go the other way because she had somewhat trusted at the very least, because we had talked about it. You guys had felt, well, there was no other person that she thought she could trust except for Linda because of all the reasons you'd stated. And you guys all trusted Linda. So to your credit, and you managed to go, well, of course she trusted Linda because she couldn't trust Ivan. But on the other hand, I had also said, even in that episode, that it could be the case that Ivan does know, and maybe everybody knows about what's going on and goes along with it and gets on to get on. And I was even thinking, and I'm right, because guys, I'm always right, that Ivan may be the least of them, that he knows what's going on, is told to look the other way, but doesn't feel good about it. And it turns out by this episode, he's the least bad of them, which does make him unusual in his tribe. Just like Bernadette in every tribe she seems to join. And Lee Porn and Chi, because Chi went against the FBI because the FBI was doing some crazy stuff. Or at least one person from the FBI was doing crazy. Everybody in this show that is extraordinary is also unusual and goes against the tribe in some ways. And we like that. We like seeing people who don't fit the mold.
When we see Chi chasing whoever the hooded figure is, they do a close-up on that pearl-handled pistol. Are we supposed to recognize that? Is that something we've seen?
Isn't that Lee Porn's gun?
I didn't recognize it, but they hung on there for a minute like we should know whose gun that was.
The monster didn't have a gun. He was just using the claw, the archaeology rake.
Yeah.
Remember the scuffle with George Bowlegs? He was trying to shoot him and the blah, blah,
Yeah.
and then they got the gun. And then I could see the gun being lost somewhere between them there, but I could double check.
Because Joe gives George his gun, right?
Right. And then runs out of bullets.
Okay. And then the hooded figure had bullets in the gun when he was shooting at Chi.
He probably have gotten the bullets from the truck when he looted it as well.
Okay.
I can see that.
Okay. While Joe was bleeding out. Okay. Yeah, I thought Chi was getting shot in that moment for sure.
Well, here's the other thing that I wanted to talk about. I'm glad you brought that up because I wasn't going to bring it up, but I love how, because you have to keep your first watch in mind. If let's say you only had your first watch, that's one thing, right, Rachel?
Yes.
Everybody. But what I liked about the first watch reaction is that they didn't show who it was initially. Just because I was editing episode 4 at the time and we've been talking about, I don't want it to be Gordo Senna. In that moment, I thought, well, the figure obviously looked like a man and a tall man at that. The jawline got me going too, because it was a shaved jawline. And I was like, oh, maybe it is Gordo. And why I thought that was because during the shootout scene, this guy was a great shot. He's almost hitting Chi at certain points, which A, ratchets up the tension, but B, made me think, oh, this guy doesn't shoot like an archaeologist I know, if it is the Dr. Reynolds. So I was just thinking it could be Gordo. But I like that I had that thought in my head because it still made me think it could be anybody. And if it is Gordo, that would suck, but it would make sense based on the scene.
He was getting dragged by the car, and I was thinking that was similar to Joe chasing Emma in the truck.
Okay. Little bookends.
I didn't really think about it being anybody because I was just enjoying watching it, to be honest.
That's fair. Tense, but cool.
Senna sounded like he almost didn't believe Chi. No sign of a wounded man or a shot up sedan. Like he thought he was making up the story or something.
Well, that is funny. I didn't think of that. But speaking of funny, one of the things that you had noted, Bridget, in prior episodes, and rightfully so, Joe was under enormous stress. Sylvia Washington rolling into town is even more confronted with the ghost, let's just say, quote unquote, of BJ Vines in his head and what he'd done. One of the things you had noted was he doesn't have humor anymore. The more he got to know Chi and Bernadette, or, well, I mean, he knows Bernadette, but the more Chi was around, he started opening up more and started making jokes with the rest of everybody. He was normally stoic, but when he comes back on the scene, the first thing he says to Chi is,
heard you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn even with a shotgun.
Which is impossible. And that was really cool to see because it shows exactly what he said to Santa, that he was able to move forward from that ketamine fever dream, apparently now that we know what it is, from the last episode.
I heard the joke, but I didn't put it together.
I may be always right, Bridget, but I do listen to you guys.
Good.
So you missed that part, but it's fine. You'll hear it at some point. What's your reaction about, excuse the phrasing, me being right about Ivan being the least bad of the Border Patrol?
I don't care because I was right about the archaeologist. So suck on that, everyone.
You can both be right, Bridget. Did you know that?
I think I missed something. The lady archaeologist.
Teddy Isaacs.
Whatever. When they were talking to her, we saw sort of a flashback about what was really happening. And while I'm watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's the dude. But then she says, we were at a conference during that time.
In
So it
Flagstaff.
couldn't have been him?
No, what Chi and Leaporn respond with is that it's only 4 hours away. And
Round
so he could have traveled there, seeded
Like in the middle of the
these
night or whatever.
artifacts,
Okay.
and come back.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 hours
All right.
and 2 hours.
Sorry, I took that as, oh, it couldn't have been him. We were together.
That's her confusion. She had the same question that you did.
Sure.
It's kind of a reiteration of how little Native lives are valued, that while trying to prove something about the Native Americans that live there, he kills one of them for finding out his secret. He's elevating these artifacts, but the people who are responsible for the artifacts, you just kill them. We don't care.
It streams into that Same kind of whole purpose of the show overall, I guess. Sylvia is there, quote unquote, to help the native people and be there for the reservation. That's not true. She's there to further her career. It's insinuated by Emma that actually she had maybe made a misstep in her career and she's being punished by being sent there, because she says, why would you end up in the middle of nowhere with a case that nobody cares about?
Well, she said earlier in the season that BJ Vines being a rich man means that somebody cares about his murder.
I agree with that.
Well, yeah, maybe, but Sylvia does concede that that is why she's there, that it has to do with her. What I'm saying is same thing with the archaeologist. It has nothing to do with the native people at all. I'm agreeing with your point. It's white people coming in and using them again as a stepping stone to further their own careers.
Yep.
It's reiterated by the archaeologist, is reiterated again by Sylvia. You're not there to help. That's the guise that you're giving. Oh, I'm here to help, or I'm here to prove this theory about the indigenous peoples for the betterment of education. But none of that is true. You're actually there to further your own career.
Let me tag on that a little bit, because I thought of a mirror, but I also thought of, and not reframing of it, but we can all agree that things that white people do on the res at the time, at the very least, go there to die. Crimes disappear. Things happen there, kind of like the drugs. They go up there, they get distributed. And for all intents and purposes, when they get distributed from the res, nobody knows where it goes after that. They exit from different roads to elsewhere, and nobody can track them because it's the res. It's their domain. Different laws. Them sending Sylvia there is kind of like an FU. We have to do it because, like you said, it was somebody. He was a rich guy. He probably had his hand in pockets, right? We kind of sort of mentioned that when Sylvia had said it, when she came on the scene. He knew people. And we attributed that to grants or maybe bigger money behind BJ Vines, whatever. But what they did also know is that you're never going to find out how he died because, like I just said, things go there to die and disappear. It could be both. That he was somebody. Even if we send our best person, it's never going to be found out because that's what happens on the res. So let's send the least of us. So it's not a big embarrassment. A new hire, a new woman on the FBI and just wash her out and that'll be that.
Like you just said, a woman. At that point in particular, much like other minorities, were not respected in any way. She's not very seasoned. There's no tact. Emma is spilling out this story, obviously in distress and is crying. And the first thing she says is, so your husband really wasn't with you that night, right? There's no artfulness to it. She's so straightforward. There's no, let me get to know you a little better and coax it out of you. It's like, your husband really wasn't with you, right?
I will counterpoint that because up until that point, well, I mean, even this point, because we know a lot more than she does. And we're getting to know her, Emma, more from that interview itself. We get to know what she went through because we hadn't seen it. Not really. All we saw were the very things she mentioned in that interview, which was the ceremonies helped me get through it. It allowed me to lean into the life of the living rather than be held hostage by the dead or the darkness. And all we see is Jolie Porn sinking into the darkness and then eventually committing a dark act. Leading up to all of this, Sylvia's doing the right things. She's making all the right moves. She's cornering her prey. If we're going to go with the coyote metaphor, fine. She's digging around the problem so that she can make sure all exits are sealed off, just like the access roads to find the killer of Ernesto Cata. So she's making sure this whole thing is airtight. And yeah, she doesn't have proof. She has a bunch of evidence. She has motive. But what she really needs is a confession because there's no forensic data that will ever point to Jolie Porn. But she has enough circumstantial. She just needs the confession. And if she can get Emma to wiggle into it, and Emma puts on a great truth telling of the whole scenario. And she
Do you think that's
leaves out
another
the last
reason
part.
she's leaving? So that she's not in Sylvia's radar anymore?
I don't think it's that. I really do think that it does go to her conversation with Sylvia because she was telling the truth. That he left no room for me in his quest to lean into the darkness to get the justice he thinks he will get for Joe Jr.
Even a little piece.
She pushed him away. I think it's what he did, but I don't think it's Sylvia.
Yeah, I didn't think it was Sylvia. I mean, that plays into it. Maybe that she had to go in and have this conversation with her, even though she doesn't want to, and she doesn't want to lie for Joe, but her loyalty will lie with her husband. more even than that, like it'll lie with her husband, it'll lie with her people before it lies with this random woman from Washington. You can tell the crying at the end of the episode. She doesn't want to leave Joe. Not really, right? Like she still loves him. He did lie to me. He's asking me to lie for him, and he chose his own revenge over me and our son and the ways of our people. He was convinced by his father that this was the only way to receive that justice. To some degree, that's true, but it goes against the way of their people in Emma's eyes. She can't let it go. And so for right now, she's just saying, like, I just need space. She can't be in the house. You saw how frazzled she looked in the house. Her hair is intentionally mussed up. The house is ridiculous looking. Everything's all over the place because it's been ransacked by the FBI coming in and searching at, well, not technically the FBI, the deputies coming in and working on behalf.
Yeah, she deputized.
I don't want to have to face Sylvia again. I can't face Joe right now. I just have to give myself the time to work through this and see where the cards fall at the end of it.
Can I do the Rachel thing? Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't she even say when she was telling Sylvia that no, he was with me all night? In addition to that, she had sort of said that we'll get through this, that I'm leaving enough room for him to come back from this.
I didn't think
I feel like
so.
something like that was said in that conversation.
I didn't think so.
Maybe you just inferred it by the conversation.
Yeah, by both conversations. To your point, Bridget, is really what I'm saying. That I feel like something was said to indicate that this isn't forever.
This is a trope, leaving to stay with your sister.
Yeah, I'm staying at my sister's.
Yeah, it's a trope in media. Now,
Yeah.
oftentimes that means like I just need space, and also my character needs to be apart from whatever happens next as a writing device. So that in your head, you're kind of like, oh, well, they could come back from this because that's what happens when we see this trope,
Yeah,
is that
shorthand.
eventually it is reconciled. But we don't know that for sure.
Well, he asks her, when will you be back? And she said, I don't know.
I'll tell you what made me think that. I apologize. I wrote it in my notes. It's the song Melissa by the Allman Brothers Band. All of that is basically to say that no matter where I go, no matter who I meet, no matter who I'm with, you are my home. Even if home is not home, you are my home. And I thought that was not just applying to Joe, because the protagonist in the song is a male, but that could also apply to Emma. That even if I'm leaving right now, home is with you. I'm still here. I might not be physically here, but you are my home. That's what made me think that, because songs do play significance in the narrative at times.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the second part of that conversation, which is the mirror, if you take a look at what Sylvia is doing, now she's not killing somebody, but isn't she just doing what Joe does in a sense? Because the reason why Joe took out BJ Vines, it was to get justice. Let's just use that, or something that looks like justice in the absence of justice. And the other excuse that I had said was, well, also you are taking somebody off the board who will undoubtedly, because of past behavior, cause many more people to die in the pursuit of the uranium. Well, then isn't Sylvia just doing the same thing? She says, your husband's life is a lie. He killed someone. Now, who's to say that he won't do it again? This is a mistake that Sylvia makes because she doesn't know Joe. She makes an assumption about Joe. This is the one thing that Sylvia says that is completely sus. It's the words she used. Your husband's life is a lie. Don't let yours be one too. Because I thought to myself, we're not the sum total of the things that we do. We are judged by our actions, but our sum total isn't the one act. We were children. We grew up. We had an upbringing. There was something that led up to that maybe, and something that happened that led to that choice being made, which Joe says in the episode at the beginning with Senna. But that's not the sum total of his life. His life isn't a lie. He may have been confused about what he had just done, but he knows why he did it. Well, and then isn't Sylvia doing the same thing from her point of view? She is seeing somebody who has murdered, who has the capacity to murder again. If the scenario were to repeat itself, if he thought in his head, should that scenario come around again, he would be capable of doing it again. So from her point of view, I see where she is coming from. And I'm convinced that, yeah, that's where her justice comes from. I'm just stopping a killer or a killing from occurring again.
I think that tracks.
There is a line that Bernadette uses. Everything's awkward between Bernadette and Ivan, despite my feelings about Ivan. She says at lunch, these guys make mistakes. She kind of looks at Ivan They'll make mistakes again. She's like that Bernadette stare. They'll make mistakes again. Yeah, it's not Spencer she's talking about. She says Spencer. He's going to make a mistake again. But she means Ivan, which just goes to show that Ivan is just getting along to get on. He doesn't like what's happening here.
She's not subtle at all.
I love it. Don't we all love it a little, though?
I think she thinks she's subtle, which makes it all the more hilarious, right? She thinks she's playing it so cool.
No, she does not. She
really,
does
she's
not
like,
care.
Don't make mistakes. Right?
Right?
Like,
No, she knows what
That's
she's
how I heard
doing.
it.
And in fact, I think she's reading him. I think maybe to a certain extent, maybe he doesn't like what's happening here. Because can all this stuff be fake that he's feeling towards her? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I like that. That is a mature thought process. It's not black and white thinking, is what I'm saying. Because you can have feelings for someone, or you can have feelings with somebody else and still take out that one piece that is incongruent with those feelings. Because this is a concern we had. He's going to get the booty with Bernadette. Still, I don't want to use a cruder thing, but that's all of show. He's just doing it to throw her off the... No, I don't think that's it. I don't think it's that simple. I like things that aren't simple and black and white. So I heavily enjoyed her, and that's why she does it. She feels like she can be comfortable enough in that awkward moment to go, well, if you really love me, you're going to take this little S.
Even though she doesn't trust him, she knows he had the opportunity to hurt her and didn't. So she knows to some degree that she's at least kind of safe around him. So she can push a little bit more. I was more shocked by her willingness to go straight to Alinda with the whole thing and say, I don't trust Ivan at all. And I was like, girl, what are you doing? And then she's like, you're the only one I trust. I was like, why? You don't really know her any better than you know him. I mean, yeah, you live with her, but
that is a good point to counter your point. Of course she would trust her. Let's take all the things that Charity said both in this episode and prior episodes. I think her living with Alinda is a good counterpoint, because if you think about it, we've talked a lot about Bernadette making a new life, finding a new man.
Do we know how long she's been there?
I want to say 4 months of the 6 months.
It's been 6 months?
Well, it's 6 months since season 2 to season 3.
The end of season 2, she was leaving.
No, she maybe didn't know Alinda right away. So I would, maybe 4 or 5 months is a more accurate thought.
But you couldn't fault her for thinking that the one person that she couldn't trust is the one she lives with, right?
I guess it's the wrong choice, but hindsight is 20/20.
And who's to know if everybody is? And you would think, okay, a conspiracy usually involves the least amount of people that would spill the conspiracy. That's what skeptics say.
Yeah.
If a conspiracy were to exist in anything, you would want the fewest amount of people to know as possible so that it wouldn't get out, because eventually it would. It does. Invariably, it does. Things come out. To Bernadette's surprise, perhaps, we'll find out maybe in the next episode that maybe everybody, or as many people as possible at the Border Patrol, is in on it. And this is like a open secret for everybody involved.
I'm sure there's a lot of money involved, and you probably don't make much as a Border Patrol agent. And as we've seen with Bernadette, she doesn't feel like the job is particularly fulfilling, catching people and sending them back over the border. I'm not saying she would take the money, but for other people who are less scrupulous than she, the fact that you're in a boring job where you don't get paid a lot, all you got to do is look the other way and you make all this money. And then pressure from all the other people, because you know everybody else is in on it.
We're so not racist. Here's the thing, and I'll say this.
What? Why do you have to say that?
Well, we're not saying the thing that might be obvious to some people but isn't obvious to us. Let's look at it this way. You guys had driven a point home in one of the earlier episodes about the federal government opening it up for Native peoples to join the U.S. Border Patrol. Okay, you have this initiative where you have these people who may be coming from marginalized communities all over, not just the res, coming into these federal positions. There's opportunity. And where there's opportunity, there's also the possible for tyranny. And so if you introduce a corruption element, well, who would be the most eager in a racist person's eyes to get more action? Bernadette's thing about going to the border was an opportunity to move up. Now that's laudable. You want to move up in the ranks. You want to be an important figure. You want to build a career. Some people join this to get more money because there's not a lot of opportunities in certain communities. Sure. And you want access to that career path. But if you show them more money, well, maybe they'll take some more. And who wouldn't if you're of that persuasion, let's say? That's their thinking.
I don't know if it necessarily comes down to the money either, because the more people you involve, the less money there is to go around. I think it's more likely a person in Anthony Michael Hall's position, he could put fear into people who maybe feel like they got this position not out of merit, but out of
because of the initiative that was created. Yeah, exactly.
Right. They got it out of obligation, not out of merit. And he could use
the
that
handout effect,
information. Yeah, he could use that information to hold it over them and say, well, if you don't do what I tell you to, I could send you back to where you were or make life miserable for you. It might not even be about the opportunity to make money to do bad things. It could be out of fear.
Like the carrot and the stick. I think the carrot works way more often than the stick. The stick has to be somewhere in the background, and that stick is Budge, which is what he says to Ivan.
The carrot might only come out after the threat doesn't work.
I think they started with the carrot, which is why everybody went on board.
See, I don't know. I think when people do corrupt things to make money, they'll do anything to keep that money. Why would they freely offer it up?
I'm going to say something that's very uncharacteristic of me. So watch out, because you know me.
Hold your seats.
People are inherently good,
Hold
right?
on to your butts.
Everybody. But we've all seen it where families get torn apart over inheritance. Property is the big one.
Yeah.
Money. Why wouldn't it be an incentive mechanism to look the other way? And
it would be.
For people who've been told to look away as things disappear on the res and a whole bunch of other things, their whole lives. I'm really not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying,
but you kind of are.
The stick has to be there for sure. But if you give enough carrot, people will be like, yeah, I'll look the other way here. It's a good thing that it's happening to me that you're telling me to look away from. Why should I speak up? Why would I? I'm making more money this way.
I agree. However, I still think they're going to try and hold on to as much money as they can. Well, I don't know.
But if you're making money, you don't think about making more necessarily.
Yeah, you do.
Maybe.
I agree with Rachel. I don't think it matters.
This is the beginning stages. It's just a thought that I had about the thinking behind what one would do for that situation. And it is inherently biasing a people. It's a prejudice of a certain people who may be incentivized by corruption in their point of view, the racist's point of view, let's say.
It is. The fact that the PIG acronym is what connected it all was a little bit baffling, because how would that little girl have heard it? But then it would appear that that's her father that works there.
The show don't tell.
Yeah, that's a show don't tell. Here's the other piece of confusion that I have, because the acronym alone was like, okay, she doesn't speak English, but this she remembers. PIG. I don't know.
Well, when you hear your father talk about it all the time.
Who's like, oh yeah, gotta work the pig. Like, I don't know. It just, to me, I was like, this doesn't seem like this would be dropping in conversation very frequently, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. The other thing that I was confused about, so Bernadette unlocks the door.
Pries
it open.
Yeah.
But
where the heck has Budge been, this whole time? Because then all of a sudden he emerges from the dark. Right? And you're like, has he been standing in the corner the whole time?
Bridget, we said it in the 5th episode, I think. He's a spook. He's CIA. So he's technically, he materialized.
He's like the Undertaker. He just like rises up from the floor.
Yeah.
He likes to make a production of it too. He's very dramatic. Look at what he did to the guy in the 2nd episode when he buried him alive in the truck.
Mm-hmm.
He can't be super out in the public. That would draw attention to himself. He can have the drama in the little ways, like burying a guy alive in a truck.
Or driving someone to Mexico and then leaving them to walk back. Right. Which was also screams drama queen, honestly.
It's the little joys, Bridget. It's the little joys.
Okay. Well, so my other question is, there's a look that the mother gives Bernadette when she opens the door.
I wrote this down too.
What is that look supposed to be? So my brain just kind of went like, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? My first thought was, are they in on it?
Who's in on it?
The mom?
The mom and the daughter. I was like, what is happening? It's clear that they've been locked in there because we didn't see Budge push them in. He just pushed in the dad.
He let him in. And then he went like this. Shush.
I know. So he's holding them to convince the man to continue to work for him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Show, don't tell.
I couldn't tell what the expression was.
To Bernadette, you're saying, right?
Yes. Was it guilt? Was it hope?
I thought she looked kind of
Okay.
relieved, like, oh, our savior.
Okay.
This lady was nice to us before. Maybe she's here to be nice to us.
That was short-lived.
Take this under consideration.
right.
For all intents and purposes, this is like the second moon landing scene, right? 1972. We had a whole thing about it. When they left the U.S. Border Patrol, where do you think they went? Do you think they got recaptured? No. The U.S. Border Patrol people took them back to Spencer Ranch.
Obviously.
No, but it's not obvious. Because if you think about it, you have to remember, when the lady was running, she was running towards the border of Mexico. She was in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because she wanted to escape. And when she escapes to Mexico, Juarez, let's say, whatever, she knows that her dad is safe and bad things won't happen to him, maybe. Because he has a particular expertise with this thing, this pig thing, but also the welding and all that stuff. They just have the wife and the daughter for leverage.
Okay.
So that's how the season starts. They were delivered. So when she sees that uniform normally, which is why she had that reaction in Mixtec, that these people are going to take me back to my husband. That's what they thought when she first saw Bernadette. That's what she was thinking. So when she saw Bernadette again, the person who spared her, had the conversation, talked her daughter down, put her gun down, like to show that she wasn't a threat. That second episode or first episode, I think it was her again, the person that treated me fairly and nicely, didn't sternly bring me back to Spencer Ranch. So she was relieved to see her again. She was being saved from her perspective.
Yeah, she wasn't. Sorry.
I know. She didn't know that at the time.
I have another question because I'm a little bit confused about this. The welded shut balls are traveling under the border, essentially. Is that what I'm led to believe?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
that's what it made it seem. But what confused me then is, why does Border Patrol need to be on the cut for ignoring the trucks?
Mm-hmm.
Because the trucks are taking it out. They've already come in. They go in the tanker trucks that get distributed around the country, and the drugs are in the tanker trucks leaving the ranch. The pipeline is how they get the drugs into the ranch.
I thought the way stations they were working were on the border, though.
You have to accept that the pig is a thing. It's a normal thing, too. The balls are there when the tanks are loaded with the oil. So they're a natural part of the process, actually. Kind of like the thing I was making fun of when we first saw the weigh-in scene. They're like the cans, how they make a clacking sound when you shake them. It's to help distribute the...
Like a ball bearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They're there all the time. So when the oil is loaded and unloaded, the pig is also part of that process. That's what that is. It's not like an extraordinary thing.
No, but the drugs being added would change the weight enough for it to throw off at a weigh station.
Right. And if your weigh station is manned by people told to look the other way,
then it doesn't matter. But that's why I was confused about the weigh station aspect of it, because I'm like, if you can just get it from Mexico to the U.S. by going
via pipes, right? But that's not the case.
Then what does that have to do with anything?
That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's not the case. They're being trucked in from Juarez over the border to Spencer Ranch as the oil is coming in from, what's the company called? The Sun
something. Yeah,
something not Del Sol. I don't know. I don't remember what it was. But as they're being trucked in for refinement, one of the other ways around, whatever it is, the balls are being unloaded with the oil. And then they're just being deposited in that room because it's part of a cleaning process. That's what those balls do.
What does the pig have to do with anything?
The pig is just a way to clean the pipes. And so they're in the tanks. They get unloaded. They clean the pipes while the oil is being deposited or taken out. It's part of the process. They're in the oil. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It's like the thing in the can. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Part of the process.
Yeah, I didn't understand this otherwise. I thought the pipes were like going underground.
Like an network of pipes.
I was like, this defeats the purpose of even involving Border Patrol. You wouldn't need to involve them. Your explanation makes more sense.
Yeah.
There are no pipes that are traveling underground, Rachel.
No, just to be clear.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I could see the look on your face, and I was like, she's where I was. And it's not.
She hasn't caught up quite yet.
Like, we're bringing the trucks into the country just to ship the balls back out and send. Okay. Do we remember? Can anyone tell me which Border Patrol agents took mom and daughter out of the station?
Oh, I don't think it was anybody we knew.
Okay.
I want to say it might have been Linda Garza.
I had that feeling also, but I couldn't remember, honestly. And I didn't know if anyone else did.
I felt like there was a man. I felt like it was two people, but maybe it was a Linda.
I might already be including the video on top of this.
We saw them being escorted out with Border Patrol agents when we assumed they were the ones taking them to their final destination.
Yeah.
or their original destination. Were you guys sus when
You
Lee
are.
Porner was talking to Teddy Isaacs? For a lot of that conversation in the beginning, at the very least, I was thinking this is just like the Suzanne Thompson thing where they caught her, she was overdosed and stuff like that. And I said she was the cult leader, and also she put Halsey up to it, and it turned out to be a nothing burger.
No,
I thought maybe she was the one that maybe
I
went
mean,
after
the
them.
only thing that I had concern with is why she was so emotional over the kids when they were acting
Right.
like the kids weren't really a part of it. So I felt like she was more covering for this archaeologist than anything else.
Oh, okay.
But I think some of that is that's how she has a job. But she clearly doesn't trust him 100% either because she kept digging even though he told her to stop.
Wait a minute. Isn't that Sylvia also? She kept digging, even though everybody's
telling her to stop.
Nobody's telling her to stop. But it's interesting. I don't know. I thought there was like a little mirror there.
So it almost seems like in this situation, you want to be able to continue your work. So you're going to try to protect this a little bit.
Well, because she has the same ambitions as Reynolds. She's like, maybe I find something.
She probably doesn't think that he's a malicious person. How many times have you watched like a documentary and it's like, then the unexpected happened?
Because it was unexpected.
He was a normal guy until he wasn't. Because that's just how it is, right? Like all of a sudden, sometimes people just like snap. And obviously he'd been doing this for a long time, was unable to prove his theory.
She said
which
decades.
means your theory is probably wrong. But what do? You double down, I guess, because you're like, no, can't be wrong.
That's science.
I'm a genius.
Doubling down is also science.
I'm a genius, so this can't be wrong. It has to be right. She probably didn't think there was any way that he could have this type of malicious thought even in him. We were right. It wasn't a fake arrowhead. It was real. That's why he tried to throw it away.
Just to be clear, that limestone thing or whatever, no, that clay was a clay mold. It was just
like
to
a mold.
protect the one artifact that he actually has. That's the only real artifact that he has, really, by all accounts.
We don't even know where he got that.
True.
He could have purchased it from somewhere if he really wanted to.
Well, and really doesn't matter because that's not the
It
thing.
doesn't. It doesn't. He was seeding
Whatever it is, he just took
That's
it too
the only thing.
far.
Yeah, he did. He definitely did. I love the explanation for how Kata ended up with the arrowhead in his mouth. These boys are clever, Dave. This is some of the smartest stuff I've ever seen. At that age, there is no way that I was thinking any of that because I'm an idiot.
Stupid. So dumb.
I was so dumb. But the fact that he put it in his mouth because he knew that someone would find it, even if it meant he was going to die, crazy smart. The fact that George takes I don't know if it was broken or not, or if he broke it up. He puts it in the fire so that it just looks like charcoal. So smart. I'm overwhelmingly impressed with what they did to protect the evidence. It's just so cool.
Why does Kata put the arrowhead in his mouth? We know, because we found the body, it was like, oh, that's supposed to point you in the right direction. But does Kata know that his life is in danger? Because all he knows, let me just give you the picture, because for all he knows, he's in trouble. He doesn't think that Reynolds is going to kill him.
I don't know. It's never a good sign when a guy's chasing you down in his car. I think you'd be a little bit worried that something really bad was going to go down.
Well, but just like Teddy Isaacs, though, if you think about it, she didn't think he was capable of it.
They know that he's been looking for this artifact, and they just stole the artifact. So, yeah, he's going to be mad. Do they know he's going to kill him? They probably feel like he's mad enough to kill him. They just stole what he's been looking for decades, supposedly.
Plus, I mean, Dave, even for us dummies when we were kids, didn't you ever get in trouble and think like that? This is it for real. I'm dead this time.
That's possible.
Because I did.
Maybe just the scene painting alone is enough.
The time we lit a fire in the hallway and burned the carpet.
Your life was over at that moment.
I thought I was dead for real.
Fair enough, actually. That does.
And
paint a
that's
better
just
picture.
burning carpet in a house. That's not stealing an artifact from a dude I don't really know. And I broke into his trailer. God, I got my ass whooped, though.
You're still here.
I'm still here, though.
And she's disappearing before our very eyes. But that's a whole other thing.
That's a thinner situation.
The clay mold or whatever it is, because it feels awfully.
It's not clay. He said it was.
Yeah, Joe
A limestone?
said what it was made of because he did the same thing.
Limestone, and then it was
sandblasted.
Sandblasted, yeah.
To protect the artifact. That's what it was. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think.
I don't think it was to protect it. It was to create it.
No, it was to protect it.
To protect it.
He compared it to how he made
I was confused by that too at the beginning, but he says for the protection of the artifact to encase it so that it doesn't break.
Right.
Okay, that was very misleading because I was under the impression he made it.
I thought that too. I thought maybe he was making fake artifacts and putting them in there.
That's exactly what I
too.
thought until this very second.
Well, we took notes and we went back and forth and we looked at, did she really just say that? Well, she pulled out a similar one. It did have a leather casing to it, but she pulled it out and pulled out the little piece from it
Yes.
to show Leaphorn. But I don't think George did that. I think the killer went through his stuff and broke it into so that nobody would find it at that point, to know that he was involved. The killer, I think, hid it among the coals. I could be wrong, but
no. Why wouldn't he just take it with Dave? George did that to hide it.
It's a good question.
Because George knew that the guy was after him. That's why he has the cans up. We're not talking Walker apocalypse. Okay. You don't have to have cans around your camp normally. He did that because he was being followed or was fearful of it.
I'll give you credence because that also explains, because I was thinking, why didn't he just kill Leaphorn?
Yeah, that was a weird choice.
Right? But maybe he wanted it to be spooky Beta S to get into his head. And why the kids and not Leaphorn, right? Because if you're willing to kill a kid.
Well, killing a police officer is different. It aligns with something that happened on an episode of Found that I covered last night, which is weird.
Go for it. I love a tie-in.
On this episode of Found that I covered last night, a woman is an EMT accidentally, because she's too tired, instead of giving someone propofol, she gives him fentanyl, 2 milliliters or something of fentanyl, like full grade medical fentanyl, a teenager. And so he goes into a coma. And luckily, the person she was with was able to administer, it wouldn't be Narcan, but it was like Naxaline or something like that. I can't remember the name. Something that's going to cancel out the medication, at least to the best of medication's ability. He ends up in the hospital and has yet to wake up. The woman files disciplinary action against the guy who provided the life-saving measures and says that he is the one who actually gave the fentanyl instead of her. She blames it on this guy. The thought process behind this was they would kidnap the guy and get rid of him so nobody would know what had happened. She would be able to save her career. The disciplinary action would have gone against the other person. And then the kid who received it would have been so out of his mind, jacked up, that he wouldn't be able to give testimony one way or the other.
Right, because he was incapacitated, so he couldn't.
So even if he lived, it didn't matter because he wasn't going to remember enough to be able to provide testimony to tell you who had done it.
And this is kind of why I asked the question, because it would make sense for him to do that if there was a chance that he could continue this grift.
Yes,
if he found himself in the surrounding area, you would want to throw suspicion and keep that particular person. And who knows, later on down the line, could be a border patrol situation. Hey, you want some of this grant money? You people take that stuff, right? This is the thinking. Things are looking tough on the res. We could help each other out. Right, you want to keep somebody like that in power.
That was my thought. Is it meant to kind of discredit Leaphorn's memory of that night? And then he doesn't have to kill him. He's like, I've resigned to killing these 2 kids, but now we're pulling in other people. Now we're pulling in lawmen and I don't want to do all this. How am I going to be able to cover my tracks on all of this? People are going to be looking for him. He views these kids as they're kids. Their parents don't care where they are anyway because they're out at this dig site and nobody's looking for them. This isn't a big deal. People go missing on the res all the time. That is a true statistic.
Missing kids, you meaning?
Yeah. It's happening right now, Dave.
So he made a judgment call about where these kids came from and decided nobody's going to miss them anyway, basically, is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. But not a whole grown NTP police officer or lieutenant who has already seen him before.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. I love what Linda says to Bernadette. Let me just tell you what I wrote in my notes. Garza feels uneasy because she knows too much. She says, quote unquote, I know a judge. Sure she does. This is my notes, by the way. Quote unquote, have fun, you two, says the psychopath waving at Ivan and Bernadette as they go to lunch. Who drinks from a happy face mug? Only psychopaths. I'm looking at you, Rachel. Don't you have a happy face mug? I don't know, maybe. I don't know. You sound like somebody that would, though.
I want you guys to know that this story ended really, really, really sadly, apparently, very, very recently. 4 days ago, it was reported that death of Emily Pike, teen found dismembered in Arizona. Spurs call for regulation of group homes. The 14-year-old was found February 14th, weeks after she snuck out of her Mesa group home. A Native American tribe in southeastern Arizona is pushing for tighter regulations on state-licensed group homes after a 14-year-old girl was found dismembered weeks after she snuck out her bedroom window. The San Carlos Apache tribe said Monday it sent a resolution to Governor Katie Hobbs and other state officials requesting an investigation and legislative reform in response to the death of Emily Pike. Emily's dismembered remains were found in garbage bags near a remote forest road on February 14th, nearly 3 weeks after she left her Mesa group home, the tribe said in a news release. No one has been arrested, and the Gila County Sheriff's Office, the investigating agency, has released few details about the case. In a March 18th Facebook post, the Sheriff's Office said it was seeking the public's assistance with information. This crime must not go unsolved. Emily was murdered in a cruel, depraved, and heinous act, and the perpetrators must be held accountable, Tribe Chairman Terry Rambler said in a letter Friday that accompanied the resolution. Tribe Social Services Department placed Emily at the group home. Alred Pike Jr., 50, her uncle, declined to say what led to her being placed there. He said he initially believed his niece was trying to get back to the reservation where her mother lives. Her remains were found about 100 miles from the group homes of the tribe, which is offering a $75,000 reward for information that leads to an arrest and a conviction. Program director for the group home Sacred Journey, Inc. said there are rules about when youths can leave. We definitely need to know who, what, where, when are you coming back. We need to meet these people who you're going with, have conversations, realize that they're real individuals, not just somebody you're making up. The program director said, you're not going to go to your friend's house and there's no parents there, stuff like that. When a resident leaves without permission, the group home alerts state agencies and contacts law enforcement. Local media outlets reported that Emily snuck out her bedroom window. Pike's uncle said her death has been very difficult for the family. The way she was found was unbelievable because you don't hear or see anything like that where I'm from, he said in a phone call. Her being deceased is one thing, but the way that she was found is another thing. It's hard to comprehend that someone would do such a thing to a 14-year-old girl. He said he wants his niece to be remembered as someone who loved her mom and siblings and liked to draw. She wanted to go to college, he said. Even though things may have been difficult at times, she had goals. She had a full life ahead of her, and her life was cut short. This was NBC News. It was written by Minavon Burke, March 25th, 2025. So this was very recent. So I had seen something on TikTok about this justice for Emily Pike. I didn't know a ton about what was going on, but I knew that she was Native and that it was being severely underreported because I hadn't heard anything about it except for TikTok. And I had to look it up to find out more about it. I did not know that her body had been found. A group of bikers transported her body to the burial place. That was another article that I just saw.
So there's a 447-mile stretch of Highway 16 in British Columbia called the Highway of Tears, where a disproportionate number of crimes, particularly against Indigenous women, have occurred since the highway's completion in 1970.
Morbid did a
hundreds of women
segment on it.
They also touched on the propensity of Indigenous women to disappear in Yellowstone. Remember when they did the whole storyline with Monica? When they found the young girl deceased and then Monica pretended to be stranded so she could get picked up.
Mm-hmm. I guess if we have this platform and people are listening, I'm not a big advocate for sharing a bunch of stuff I don't know anything about, because I'm an idiot and I don't know a ton. This is really super sad. And so when we're talking about this concept of things disappear off the reservation, that saying is often in reference to people, unfortunately. That's based in reality. Much like this dirtbag who killed this 14-year-old girl and spread her body parts all over the place. I'm going to compare him to this archaeologist dirtbag.
Oh, I see. Yeah. That's what this is all about, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's where this came from. Sorry, it reminded me of it, and I was like, oh, I should find out what happened with that. And then there it is.
And here I placed more value on the kid than what I guess I'm not like Reynolds. I don't prejudge someone's value based on where they're from.
I believe that children are the future. Treat them well and let them lead the way.
Yeah.
Thanks, Michael.
Yeah. Well, thanks.
So this guy killed the future for the past.
Correct.
Which doesn't that repeat a cycle in a way? Why did they disappear? Or maybe they didn't disappear. What if they're descendants of, I think I mentioned who they may be the ancestors of, but it doesn't matter really. He was trying to create a causal link to the Folsom people, to the Navajo people of today, or whatever tribe he ends up popping up next. to do his thing, probably. And then what is it for if you really devalue a kid's life like that? In his eyes, he was thinking, well, they could link it to the sightseeing I was doing. But like, really? But then again, if someone feels cornered enough, kind of like Ernesto Cata, you'll do something desperate, like put a arrowhead in your mouth. And so, well, there's a mirror there too, I guess. I didn't think of that until just now. He thought his world was over too. Reynolds is what I'm saying.
I have to say, Dave, you were right. You've mentioned several times that this show, this season in particular, I'm sorry, that this is not my original thought.
I was wrong about a lot of big things. Let me just be clear, just so you know.
Well, no, you had mentioned that this season in particular was really immersive for you. I was so engaged at the beginning of this episode that I forgot about Bernadette's storyline completely. And I was like mad when they switched over to it because I was like, no.
Show me more of this.
We're finally getting answers. Go back.
You know what's really funny about that? What you just said is this is actually in my notes, is not what you're saying, but we come into the episode and we hear what was said at the end of the last episode, but over the walkie from a different perspective, from an overhead drone or helicopter shot, whatever it is. But then she arrives on the scene. The music is one way in the beginning. And then when she arrives on the scene, it just goes up, not an octave, but like it does a key shift. And it gets more spaghetti westerny, like, oh, she's on the hunt, whatever. And he's chasing after the hooded man. And then it mellows out. And then he finds the hooded man and then picks up again while they do the shootout thing. It's like a Western.
I love that.
But to your point, for all the things you were saying about Chi being a C character in the season, that felt like them trying to make up for it in a way.
It did. Dave, I wanted to mention this. I'm so glad that you said this. In the first season, when she rides a horse, he's like complaining about it. He's like, it hurts. He doesn't want to do it. And all of a sudden we get this grandiose shot of him just
like
gallivanting off on a horse. And I was like,
it's a horse whinnying, in case you're wondering.
That was terrifying.
Sorry.
It was intense. It went to really illustrate that he is now a part of this. He's all in. He's 100% in. He is back to being part of the tribe.
Yeah. And I had a thought. I didn't put this in my notes, but I had this thought while I was taking notes. Well, there's that horse at the very least, Bernadette's horse? Because he rode in on a horse, Leaphorn.
Man, I don't know whose horse that is. Okay. He brought it out of the trailer. He drove it out there.
There's a reason why I thought about that, because Bernadette's taking care of all these horses and she has somebody that's helping in the first season.
Yeah, the boy with the helmet.
Right. All the various helmets.
The boy with the helmet. That's not what I meant. He liked the helmet. He didn't need it. He
just wanted it.
I get it. I get it. Okay, he didn't need it.
I was a boy once and forgot how to be a boy, apparently. How my life was over if I did something wrong.
It was a helicopter helmet.
Yeah. So cool.
I was like,
I remember being a boy.
I was like, that's not what I meant. That's not what I meant.
Oh, see, again, I'm not seeing the joke.
You know what I'm most disappointed in? We haven't figured out what was the deal with the devil sheep.
The space goat.
Again with the
space goat.
Space goat. That's a good one. Yeah.
Space goat is the perfect explanation.
Space goat, res to res.
I was getting ready to say coast to coast.
Space goat.
I channeled your spirit, Sharon.
I absolutely love it.
Took it one step further.
Space goat needs to go on a t-shirt.
Space goat.
All right. Get crack-a-lackin'.
There you go, Dave. There's this episode's t-shirt, Dave.
Yep, space goat. Res to
I
res
would
at the
weirdly
bottom.
wear a shirt that's a space goat with a picture of that goat on it.
Yeah, that's
I
the
would wear
point.
that.
It would be more fun just to wear one that
side.
says Space Goat, and then people would be like, why does your shirt say Space Goat?
What?
I want a picture of that messed up goat
It's
on
like
it.
the
I
most
liked him.
niche t-shirt ever.
Yeah, but you couldn't say it's the goat, though.
I hate you. He always goes too far. He always takes it too far.
It was funny. And then
I
Dave
ruined
spoke.
It. I did. And then Dave spoke.
Dave's like, I can make it funnier. Watch.
No.
Watch me.
I know what I'm doing. I'm like Philip Seymour Hoffman in that one movie.
Wow, that's a huge credit.
Where he's not in a good movie. Well, not in a movie where he's purposely being masterfully good. Along Came Polly.
Don't reference Along Came Polly, Dave. Come on, we're better than that.
No, well, this is the funny part. Is he throws all those hook shots where he's playing basketball, and that's me. It's like, I know this is not going to hit most times, but if it does hit, people are going to barf
Okay, no,
laughing.
it's better if you just compare this to Michael trying to make that backwards shot where he's like, and boom goes the dynamite, where he keeps doing it over and over again. And he has to keep practicing it. That's more comparable, I think.
Razzle dazzle.
Yeah.
Or whatever it
Philip
was he said.
Seymour Hoffman. No.
Michael Scott.
Michael Scott.
Yeah,
You're
it's
more
a
of a
similar
Michael
feeling.
Scott.
You think you're Philip Seymour Hoffman, but really you're Michael Scott.
A sweaty, freckled, blonde, pasty. Like, well, maybe that's more accurate. A shorter Italian man. Yeah, it's accurate. Hairy, too. This shorter, hairy man says, if you like what you heard, head on over to ratethispodcast.com/squawkingdead. Give us 5 stars and a pig. Well, there's no space
A
code.
pig.
A pig.
Aw.
So let us know that you love us. That's all we need. But if you're feeling up to it, tell us what you like, tell us what you didn't like. Just do it after every single episode. And consider liking, sharing, commenting on this video if you're on YouTube. And if you really, really enjoy what you're hearing, please consider tipping us on Ko-fi.com/squawkingdead, or join a membership tier for as little as $4 a month on either Ko-fi or Patreon. When you do, you'll have forever access to our Discord, along with a whole host of other perks. Forever access to posts when you join a membership tier, cool discounts in our Ko-fi shop, sometimes free for members of any stripe. If you happen to join the Whispers, Great M, or Survivors tier, you will get a free classic t-shirt upon signing up. If you happen to join the Survivors and Great M tier, you will also show up alongside us in these episodes, not these episodes, but future episodes where we don't have screeners, which is entirely possible if they see the watermark in the...
No, don't joke about it. Oh,
Join the
God.
Great M tier. You can show up in our core channel telling us what's what, all the little behind the scenes conversations that we can't even share on our Discord, which most of it is in the other channels, but these screeners conversations happen to be in the core channel, in those threads, as well as any other calls, communications between us behind the scenes, things that we want to do, things that we were thinking of doing. You will be involved in that in all areas. Consider joining the Great M tier. It's pretty expensive, but if you believe in us, maybe you might. I've been your host, David Cameo, and I was joined by
Cosmo Mom 09.
Lazy Gardener.
And Bridget. You can find me at ko-fi.com/punkybrewster. That's PUNKYBRUISETER.
And I appreciate you guys joining us for these conversations. We love Dark Winds. We love having you listen to us and include your voice in the comments in the chat. If you're watching the premiere,
loving the comments, honestly.
they, as the kids say, give me life. Is that a thing they do? Say, can you give me life?
Not anymore.
Well, they give me
ruined
life.
it.
I give you death. I just passed Dark Wind upon your
God.
life.
Now they say Sigma. Is that still a thing, or are they over that
I just
now
meant
too?
like they
Sigma.
won't say it anymore because Dave said it. So now
Oh,
it's
yeah, no.
ruined.
Yeah. If they said it yesterday, they're done saying it now because Dave said it.
Because I am the ruiner of all things. I am the Dark Wind. All this to say, if you are enjoying what you're loving, tell us what you do like. Tell us what we got wrong, please, in the comments. And let's have a dialogue about this, because some of the pronunciations I'm not sure of, and I would love to be corrected. I will not take offense. We are not the offense-taking type.
I'm literally not offended. Simultaneously offended by everything, but
Especially the ruiner, the Dark Wind here.
I just
So
don't
I'm offended
care.
by your jokes, but
That's the newest Marvel superhero, the Ruiner.
the ruiner.
yeah, I go by many names. Okay, we are Legion.
We are
are one.
Legion. I go by many names.
Take care, everybody. We'll see you real soon. I cannot wait for the season finale
Me
of the
too.
third season of Dark Winds, because we don't have it recorded yet, and we will very soon, which we'll be doing right after
Should
this.
probably
We'll
talk
be
about.
figuring that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So take care. We'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Say the thing. Great.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Cosmom 09.
Bye-bye.
Flavor it.
Bye-bye.
Flavor.
Bye-bye.
Flavor.
It's flavor. It's flavor.
It's flavored. Because you were trying to be very quiet for some reason. Flavored.
I told you, secret jokes are the best jokes, Dave.
Flavored. Thank you yet again for making it to the end of our latest discussion on Dark Winds. This one, the 7th episode of its 3rd season, titled Álts'iisigo. In English, just a small piece. I will be putting up a poll on our Spotify listing of this podcast, asking whether you would like a Space Goat Res to Res t-shirt. It would be a good idea to head over to our podcast on Spotify, and if you are listening, make sure you're subscribed and heed the call. I'll probably be putting the same poll on our YouTube channel as well in the community posts section, not on social media. This one's for the real ones. If there's enough interest, I think 10 should do it. We'll make the damn shirt because you seem to want it and you should be able to have it. Without further ado, we'd like to thank the folks who make this podcast happen. It's a little perk that they receive as part of their membership. Starting with the Great M tier, the greatest ish tier, we have at Real Ryan GM on Instagram and X. Moving on to our Survivors tier, we have Douglas Atherton, aka at Walking Dead Artist 2 on Instagram. In the Whisperers tier, we have at Kim.Rowley, the number 1 on Facebook. It's getting slim out here, folks, and we could really use your support. As I may have mentioned in past episodes, for about a year now, I've had to contribute my own money to this podcast, something that I haven't had to do since the beginning of this podcast. And every bit of your support helps make this podcast grow. Everything we've ever asked of you is to help make this podcast grow, because we are not making money off this podcast. It's really all to hopefully at some point be monetized on YouTube or have enough of an audience to reach in order to get brand advertisements and sponsorships and stuff like that. Starting with the free stuff is always liking the video you just watched, rating it on the various platforms you're listening to it on, commenting on the videos, sharing our content, be they YouTube videos, clips, or full episodes even. If there's something you got out of the conversation and you think others might too, let them know. And that's just the free stuff. Tipping us is great. Every bit of your money goes to a good cause, basically paying our bills and hopefully buying new promotional materials to reach out to other people. Again, this is just really to get the word out and to pay our bills. That being said, we're primed to cover the season finale of Dark Winds, its 3rd season. I personally haven't watched it yet, and we have just recorded our episode on The Last of Us. It's the episode you listened to just prior, and we'll be going live to discuss those discussions for at least the next few weeks, which overlaps with our coverage of The Walking Dead Dead City. And we've got some pretty cool things coming our way during that time as well that we're happy to announce at a future junction. In the meantime, sit tight, sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite, and remember that we are Squawking Dead.